Hey folks, my name is Rod. I live in a town called Rock Hill. It's in upper South Carolina, very close to Charlotte. If you've been on the Catawba River, you've probably seen me out there plenty of times over the years, but wanted to spend a few minutes talking about two of the latest swim bait designs I came up with, both really made from the same mold. And the reason for showing this is just really to show you what's possible, what you could actually make out of your garage if you are into making lures or swim baits or god baits or whatever, homemade baits essentially. So before I get into that, I want to show you kind of what led up to this, how I got started, and how I went from a very small bait to this design, which is a little unique, specifically in the hard bait, which is a line through design, but I'll get into that in just a minute. So, okay, it's probably been 3, maybe 4 years ago is when I got started. Made a little 3 segment swim bait, super small. I don't know, this is probably 4.5, maybe 5 max inches. It was meant to imitate a threadfin shad, and most of my designs are shad lookalikes. This was a single hook design. It was too small really to put doubles on there. It was okay. I guess it was a good starting point. A little bit ugly now as I look back at what I've got now, but I tell you, this thing actually caught quite a few very nice bass, including one that was about 7.5 pounds, which at the time was my PB. So that's what really got me hooked into wanting to make my own baits out of the garage, something that was unique that nobody else had, and that kind of led to stepping up to bigger swim baits. I'm like anybody else looking at YouTube videos and have learned that the bigger the bait, the bigger the fish, and the bigger the draw power. So I took this bait and stepped it up to a much larger 3-segment swim bait, meant to imitate a gizzard shad. It does have 2 hangers on it. These are swivel hangers, to help, because this thing probably weighs about 3 ounces, just to help, everybody says, to help I guess the hook up to land ratio, so the fish, it makes it a little bit harder to throw it if the hangers can spin. Anyway, the problem with this is what I found over time. Yes, I was catching some very nice fish with it. The issue is, by far the majority of the time, I was hooking bass on the front hook, and the problem is, with all this weight behind it, the back hook was left to hook the fish in the side. This thing's thrashing around, the fish is jumping, trying to throw the lure, and I hooked quite a few fish, very nice, just gorgeous bass, in the side, scarred them up pretty good, and one that got very close to the eyeball, and that's when I said, I'm done with the 2 treble hook design, and thought, okay, well, let me see how this works if I just take one of these hooks off. And I also started thinking, well, why in the world would I not try a line through design? There's a lot of swim baits that are soft swim baits that seems to work just fine, so why not try it in a hard swim bait? So that's what I did. Took that same design and with the pretty soft tail, and came up with a line through design, and I threw that for a bit and caught some very nice fish. Just pops right out, the line comes right through, and works great, works fantastic. So I wanted to step it up and try to make one even more realistic than this, and that's where the one I'm here to talk to you about came from, and let me kind of lead into that. Alright, so I had a neighbor that used his cast net to catch a very large gizzard shad, I think it was actually out of Lake Wylie instead of the river behind it, the Catawba River. And this is an 8-inch version of it, but it was, what he provided me was about 9.5 inches. It was huge, and that's not actually all that big for a gizzard shad. But anyway, and I've scaled it down a couple of ways, and so this is what it was, and this is where I started from. I took that fish that he gave me, and I essentially froze it. I bet it was in the freezer for 6 to 8 months, and I finally, and it kind of started decomposing, but it still worked just fine. I took the head of that gizzard shad and put it into some silicone mold and came up with a mold for the head. This is the true head, and from that I simply took the silhouette of the body I was just showing you and had a very thin piece of wood, cut out the silhouette of the body and attached it into the end of this, and then just put, to make the scales and everything else on the sides of it, I just use a simple oven baked Sculpey clay, and it's pretty easy to work with, and I actually shot a video on it showing the whole process, and like an idiot I lost the micro SD card. But anyway, I just wanted to show you what you could do out of your house. Let's get into the bait and the specifics of the bait just real quick, and let me talk about the hard bait more than anything. What makes this a little bit unique among glide baits, a couple things here. The tail is a very, very soft, it's just soft plastisol, and it almost turns a glide bait, because of the action that it has. It almost turns it into a 3-segment swim bait. It really, really puts off some fantastic action. Something else that's a little bit unique is I went out of my way just by trial and error, because I've snapped off a few dorsal fins with this normal resin, is used smooth on. They have a resin, a semi-rigid resin that's flexible called smooth cast, and this dorsal does move, and I've got a Virotex epoxy over top of it that's also a little bit flexible to coat the whole body. But I even put the the thread on the back of it as well, so you have the thread here that's it's flexible. Does this thread really add that much to it? Does it really make the fish strike it? Heck, I don't know. Maybe, maybe not. Who knows? But I, just to make it as realistic as possible, I'll put it on there. So again, the big key to this is the line through design. Line goes through the head, comes out of the bottom right there, and it ties on to a screw eye, which of course has just got a a split ring and a hook, and it's got a little foam rubber insert right there, and it just pops in, and that's it. It really does look like, hey, it looks like a normal bait until the fish strikes it, and you give it a yank, bang, the thing, the hook pops out, and you're only fighting a fish with the hook. This thing truly does slide up the line, and it has worked phenomenally. So anyway, just wanted to show you these two baits and what is possible, making baits out of your garage. And next, let's go next door to my neighbor's house. Got a gorgeous pool. Let's give it a look and see what these things look like underwater.